Decaf.
We good?
Tea.
All right. They're telling me we can go. You ready? Okay, we will call the April Russellville City Council meeting to order.
I'm gonna have to look with you.
If you would, we'll be led in prayer by Pastor Darrell Cobbs of St. John's Lutheran Church. We'll follow that with a pledge to the flag. Please rise.
Let us pray. Father God and Creator of all, we thank you for your numerous and varied blessings to us. Thank you for the coming rain that refreshes the earth and all creatures. Keep us safe in the storm and watch with your mighty angels over all. And Lord, tonight we pray for our mayor, for Russellville City councilmen and women, for our judges and all who serve in a leadership capacity in this city. May they always keep our public trust as a solemn pledge and also serve us as models of honesty and prudence. Help them to protect all our people in the community from anything that might hurt or disgrace them, our citizens. Give them a desire to defend the rights and responsibilities of everyone. So, Lord, we pray all these things through Jesus the Christ, who lives and rules with the Father and the Holy Spirit, one God, now and forever. And all his people can say, Amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Be seated. I'm going to jump in here and make an announcement because we've had quite a few people show up to speak about the PUD rezoning issue. That has been tabled at the request of the petitioner again, so if there's anybody here that came about that one, we will not be hearing it tonight. So, that done, Ms. Palladino, would you call the roll, please?
Yes. Mr. Wiley?
Here.
Mr. Westcott?
Here.
Mr. Brown?
Here.
Miss Freddie Harris?
Here.
Mr. Tripp?
Here.
Mr. George? Mr. Sims?
Here.
We have a quorum.
Okay, a quorum has been declared. Mr. George couldn't be here tonight. He's out of town. Hopefully, this time next month, we will have sworn in a new council member. I see one of the candidates from the runoff is here. Ms. Caruth, thank you for attending. And is Mr. Barrett here? Okay. Anyway, welcome. Thank you. And Kevin Massey is here from Polk County Library. He's going to be on our mayor's report next month. Y'all won't have to listen to me. We'll get an update on how things are going at the library. Yeah, go ahead. Council, in your packet, you received the minutes from our last meetings. If there's no questions or corrections, I would entertain a motion to approve.
Motion.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion, Mr. Westcott, and a second, Mr. Brown. All in favor of approval of the minutes, say aye.
Aye.
Okay. Finance report. Now, y'all going to fight over who gets to do this, or looky here? Welcome back, Mr. McCoy. We did miss you.
Thank
A
you,
little.
Council, and thank everybody for thinking about me while I was off. Finance report for March. Revenues were $847,386. It's 2.78% below our projections. Sales tax receipts were $661,707. Franchise fees and permits of that was $47,253. According to the receipts for sales tax, compared to last year, same period, we were 0.368% below. According to the budget for this year, we are at 0.8%, which is $17,000 above, just for information. Total expenditures for March was $1,341,963. It's 11.89% above our projections. We've $337,786 less receipted than expended. Street Department operations revenue was $125,310, 6.87 below year-to-date projection. Sales tax receipts were $332,781. The new half cent was $45,723. Expenditures for street department, $266,745, 6.46 above year-to-date projections, and that includes the Arkansas study and O Street. Sales tax improvements was $56,091. Expenditure and capital was 0. Revenues for the economic development, $43,371. Of that, $38,032 was the new sales tax, $5,339 is interest. Expenditures were $5,350 for the Arkansas Valley Alliance. Capital assets, revenues were $241,623 for March, $237,694 was the new sales tax, $3,929 in interest. Expenditures in capital were $2,158,807. Of that went to City Corp, Aquatic Center, Fire Station, Police Department, and the soccer complex.
Anybody have any questions for Mr. McCoyne? Very well, thank you then,
Thank
Jerry.
you, council.
I will make a note, I think all of y'all got an email from me last week. I was flipping through City and Town magazine and looked at the sales tax receipts report, and it showed we were, between our city tax and our share of the county tax, we were down $300,000 and almost $50,000 from the same period last year. So I ran screaming from the building, and then I came back in, and they had called Municipal League, and there was a mistake in the calculation on that. So hopefully the mistake was in our favor, and it's not that bad. All right, Mayor's report. We've got a little housekeeping item here. The Russellville Housing Authority has asked that we reappoint Mr. William F. Smith II or Junior. He's been on there for a long time, knows where all of their records are, and they would like to keep him on and have him for another 5 years. I'd entertain a motion to confirm. Mr. Wiley. Second, Mr. Westcott. Any discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, thank you. And now, one reason I'm feeling kind of frisky, we get to have an update on the Russellville Aquatic Center. Mr. Chad Weisler from Van Horn Construction is here. Hopefully he's got some not too dramatic reports for us.
Short and sweet.
All right.
Mr. Mayor, council members, thank you for allowing me to come present this to you. As an update, the pool's coming along very well. I don't know if many of you have been by or had the opportunity to stop in, but the pool's full. It's ready to be swimming right now, not by the public. We're running tests. We still have to get it approved by the health department. We're on the final stages of cleaning. Next week, we have some training for Mr. Hollis and his team on the electrical and the HVAC. A week from Monday, we're going to perform the training on the actual pool equipment. So inside right now, everything is 99.9% complete. So we hope to turn the project over to you in a matter of 2 to 3 weeks.
Wow.
Having said that, that is almost 3 months early.
Ooh.
Now, that could not have been possible without you folks, the mayor, and Mr. Hollis. So we want to say thank you for that, because it is definitely a team effort, and it takes coordination of us all to do that.
That's good.
I invite each of you to come by next week and see it. Again, it's not open for the public quite yet, but it will be very soon once we turn it over to Mr. Hollis, and he'll have some time to train his folks. But it's a beautiful facility inside. Any questions?
Thank you.
Thank you.
And I'll congratulate you. As you know, I was a convert to the construction manager method. You had to really work on me to get me to understand where and how it worked. Anytime you need a reference from me, I'll be happy to sign that. It's worked extremely well. You know, it's one thing to turn a project over 3 months early. It's entirely different to do that on a project that was only scheduled for 14 months, I believe, was our timeline.
Yes, sir. Pretty close.
That's a large percentage of the schedule early, and everybody pulled together on it. And so thank you for what you guys have done out there. It's Mr. Sims, would you like to mention that comment? Wasn't it you
I'd
that
love
told
to
me?
mention that comment.
This kind of sums up what has happened out there, for those of you that hadn't seen it.
Not that cities in Arkansas are really competing against each other or anything like that. Never
Yeah.
would we do that. However, shared the interview that Mr. Hollis did and on a Facebook post and got lots of hits and things. And there was a comment that really attracted my attention. I think everybody here would be happy to hear. It said, wow, I wish Fayetteville had something like this. And they weren't talking about Fayetteville, Tennessee, which is a little bitty hole. They were talking about Fayetteville, Arkansas. So I think that really says something about the facility that we have there. And I just can't wait to go to my little neighbor's next birthday party. I think he's born in December. It's going to be party central out there. It really is. It's going to be a great place.
It's a really nice facility. Y'all have done a great job, and I appreciate that.
Well, thank you. Like I
Mayor.
said, though, it's a team effort.
Mayor, may I have just a quick?
Yep, Mr.
Mr.
Tripp.
Weiser, wanted to say thank you. Some of us were here several months back when we started this project. We had a little bumpy start, but I hope that it's, now that it's coming to a finish, to conclusion, we can look back and see that we made the right decision. And appreciate your time and effort and heartache along the way, and appreciate what you've done for the community.
Thank you.
And you know, just to dispel some of the rumors that go around that sometimes can get negative. And man, I'm telling you what, I'm really working on positive attitude and making sure we stay upbeat on these kind of projects. And my daughter, who is a competitive swimmer, and she's actually trained in management of those kind of facilities out there, when she heard some of the questions about the length of the pool and all that kind of stuff, she said any competitive swimmer knows that they can increase their time if they have half the distance as opposed to a full 50 meter or whatever that is, because you lose the wave action. And her being a little bit taller, she would always at the end, when she flipped to go down to the other end, she would gain on her opponents. And so she said anybody who understands competitive swimming knows that you actually increase your times in the shorter half of the lane as opposed to that full lane. So that's coming from someone who's been in that situation, and she was excited to hear that it was actually the length that it is.
You know, we went back and forth about it, and then that was kind of decided, and then at one point we were debating on whether we went from 1,800 square feet to 1,500 square feet on the therapy pool, and we're kind of agonizing on it, and Mr. Weisler was being kind of quiet and sitting over there using his calculator, and he figured out that by making that change, we could move a wall in, I think it was 6 or 8 feet, but it saved us $100,000. And that's the kind of value engineering that team put together, and I think you're all going to be really pleased with it. Anybody else, Mr. Brown?
Yeah, Chad, I was part of that bumpy start.
I wasn't.
I wasn't. You know, just my hat's off to you guys out there, and especially Stanley.
Yeah.
What a great job. What a good-looking facility. And just impressive. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Brown. It means a lot.
I had
If
all the
nobody-
confidence in the world in them.
Me
If
too.
nobody else has anything, get out there and finish that, will you? You're wasting time.
We'll be out there this weekend,
Thanks
wrapping
for
it up.
coming. Thank you.
Thank you.
We had a third item on here. I was a month off on that. Does anybody else want to add anything to the mayor's report part?
Mayor, if we would, simply because she's stepping in voluntarily and not something she has to do, but I think we ought to wish somebody a happy birthday.
Would you like to phrase that in the form of a motion?
However it needs to be done.
We got a motion to wish Julie Palladino a happy 30th birthday. She didn't have to be here tonight.
You'd have to say her age.
do that.
And a second from Mr. Westcott. All in favor of wishing her a happy birthday, say aye.
You start.
All right. Thank you, Julie.
We're not
All
gonna
right.
sing? We're not gonna sing?
No,
You lead it.
no.
Yeah.
We're out of time. Mr. Jones is anxious to get up and give us his report. He's been happily preparing for this for months and months. So
I didn't do it. Well, I thought we were gonna sing.
I did too.
Well, I'll sing to you if you want. I hope I can get this.
All right, while he's messing around with the computer, Julie just pointed out Kurt's birthday is tomorrow. So if y'all want to sing,
Who's?
lead the way.
Who?
Mr. Jones, his birthday is
Oh,
tomorrow.
it is?
He'll be 30 tomorrow,
Oh, my
I will be
goodness.
30 tomorrow.
to the second power.
You
so
look every bit of it.
Yeah, every bit of it.
happy
They've been
birthday.
30 hard years. Well, Mayor, Council, I appreciate this opportunity, as always, to give a update on our Public Works Department. I think I want to start out, well, first of all, I want to thank y'all that showed up for our open house last week. I kind of wanted to go through, and correct some errors, I guess, that I had. I know I was talking to Mr. Sims about the number of employees that we had, and I couldn't count them all. I ran out of fingers, so. But I want to kind of just give you a quick run through. We've got 23 total employees over at Public Works. In the engineering administration, we've got 4. That includes myself. And then our GIS department is 2 employees. We have a traffic and sign department. We have 3 employees in that department. Our fleet service is 2 employees, and then our street crews total 12 individuals. The first thing I want to talk about is, I believe what I've been probably asked the most about here lately, is an update on O Street. I don't know if any of y'all have been out there lately, but we have progressed on O Street. It's getting close to completion. We're in the final stages, really, of finishing up the intersection up there at Parker Road, where it will tie into where we're reconfiguring that whole intersection. It ties into O Street up there at the top of the hill. As you can see, this picture was taken actually yesterday, and you know it's pretty much complete. They're planting the trees right now, except for the asphalt, which we're waiting to get everything ready to go, and then they'll lay the binder and the final asphalt surface. We're not going to be 3 months ahead of schedule, but we will be ahead of schedule on the project. It should be finished in early June. So, and that's been so far it's gone very smoothly. It'll be well within budget as well. The next thing I want to talk about is one of the projects that we're working on right now is Skyline Drive. And I know we've talked for some time about improving, widening Skyline Drive, creating some kind of multi-use trail path up the side of the mountain in connection with the road to just make a safer road corridor there. And we are in the middle of design on that right now. I've actually got the grade and alignment set for it, and going through the process of working out all the other various details, storm drainage and so forth with the project. I've got a typical section here that I'm working with right now. This project will involve a significant amount of retaining wall. I don't know if y'all can see that very well, but I will go through some of the details. It's going to include 2 lanes, 2 13-foot lanes. There will be an 8-foot wide multi-use trail, sidewalk, and bike path. We are planning on street lighting, and then there'll be like I say, there'll be a retaining wall throughout a good portion of the mountainside of the project. I've set the grade and alignment on this roadway in such a way that we're not going to require any property on the downhill side of the roadway. We're going to pretty much match it. So, that's where all the drives and everything are, that existing drives that connect to it. So it won't have any adverse effect on those. Another project that we've got coming up, and you may have seen some surveyors out there here recently, but we are having the survey work done on the Inglewood Phase 2 project, which will really just be a continuation of that section that goes from Main Street to Honeysuckle, and we'll take it all the way back around to the roundabout. As soon as I get the survey information on that, then we'll start on the design work on that project. Both these, Skyline and Inglewood, are right now currently slated to go to construction next year. Something else I kind of want to talk about is our wayfinding signage that we've kind of started working on, and I hope all of y'all have had a chance to see the sign that we set up out there by City Hall. This was kind of something, the mayor and I had a discussion about this here several weeks ago, and I got with our sign shop and talked about, what we could and couldn't do, and we decided to piece together a mock-up of a sign, and I thought it turned out really well. The plan is to designate some, I guess, points of interest in the city, and I've got a little map here. Again, I apologize, this is totally unreadable, but on this map I've identified about a dozen different points of interest that kind of as a starting point that we would create wayfinding signs to direct the public to. We may, as just kind of the initial stage of this, maybe just concentrate on some of the downtown area and do it on kind of a trial basis. But this particular layout that I've got here with about a dozen different points, and it includes things like the hospital, the Bonadilla Trails, the state park, Arkansas Tech, our ball fields, soccer complex, airport, some other, like I say, a dozen total. But it would involve, I think, I counted when I did a preliminary sign location map, I counted somewhere around 24 of these signs that we would need at 24 locations. So we're working on figuring out how much each one of these signs is actually going to cost if we build it in-house, and then we'll have a kind of a cost number at that point that we'll come back to you for and see how we proceed on this. Before I get to, if y'all have any questions, I did want to talk about a couple more things. We are starting our overlay program this year. We've budgeted $1 million for overlays this year. That will overlay a little over 8 miles of streets, and that will include milling on the streets that require milling. We're waiting on the final design for a streetlight project along Sequoia Way that will go to construction this year. And we're in the middle of, maybe y'all have noticed, we've been really aggressive about updating some of our street signs, particularly street names. I've noticed, and I'm sure some of y'all have noticed in the past as well, as we drive around town, we've got areas where street signs are missing. Well, we've gone in and we've mapped every one of those signs, and we're in the process of replacing those street signs so that we don't have any intersections that don't have street signs on them. Another thing ongoing that we're working on is sidewalk updates and repair. I've got one sidewalk project that will be going to construction this summer, and then we've got some other areas that we're actually doing some in-house, a little bit more in-house sidewalk repair work as well, instead of contracting all that out. And then, of course, one of the big projects that we're in the middle of right now is the Prairie Creek 205 project. They've had surveyors out here working for the past several weeks. I've seen them up and down Prairie Creek. In fact, they're over by Public Works right now. But that project is moving forward. I anticipate that it will probably go to construction probably next year sometime. And now, if y'all have any questions, I'd be happy to entertain those at this point.
Mr.
Yes,
Jones,
sir, Mr.
two
Tripp.
questions for you. Clarification as far as the Skyline project goes, just for everybody that might be watching, might watch this later. This project only goes from the west end of West Main up to the turnoff at Marina Way.
That's
because
correct.
the part from Marina Way down to Highway 7 South or Atwoods is a state highway. not a
That's
city
correct.
road. Okay.
This goes up to the state highway. It's all state highway as you go back down Marina Way, and then also the rest of Skyline Drive on top of the mountain is state highway.
And then number two, just for clarification, we're not doing this just to add a multi-purpose
No,
trail
no,
or lane to it.
no.
There's
But-
roadway issues. It's been
It's-
known for a while.
And that's one thing I didn't point, it is a narrow roadway. It's, I believe it's 22 feet wide. But you know, it is becoming more and more used by bicyclists, and it is a safety issue on that roadway. You know, it's a narrow roadway. There's no curbing or anything on there right now. You know, and the other thing that this project will address are some drainage issues that we have up there. Quite frankly, we've got some inadequate cross drains and structures that are actually failing up in that area, and we've kind of patched them together best we can in the past, you know, anticipating that at some point we're going to have to come in here and do a full project. But this will address those drainage issues as well.
In the current design, just so that nobody gets, hopefully no one will get this mixed up, we're not narrowing the roadway.
No, no, no.
We're actually going wider
The-
lanes
the-
and adding into the hillside an extra pedestrian.
Yes, we're not taking away from any of the lanes that are out there. We're going, like I said, the existing road is the lanes are approximately 11 feet wide, and this project, the actual lane widths will be 13 feet.
Is there going to be any easements on that?
We will have to acquire some property on this project.
Okay.
Yes, sir. Again, I've designed it in such a way that most of the property acquisition is going to be taking place on the hillside side of the project, but we will have to acquire some right away.
One overlay question for you, Ms. Jones, and I'm done here, I promise. With the recent City Corp or sewer projects going on, like on South Glenwood, is that on our overlay list?
On South Glenwood,
Yes. You go from Second Street to.
now I have Second Street is on our overlay
Second
list.
Street to 12th Street, there's probably
I do have
two
Second,
dozen
I have Second
street
Street,
cuts.
I have portions of Second Street on our overlay program right now. I don't have any of Glenwood on our overlay this year.
Is Commerce or Denver on that overlay?
I actually brought the list here, Mr. Wiley. And I don't think, those concrete streets, no. I can
Well,
tell you right.
Denver's not a concrete street, so you could overlay it.
Well, I don't have, I don't have Denver on here right now.
Well, it's bad.
that-
It's
is that
getting
one-
worse.
We'll look at it.
Thank you.
One question too, just for, like, in Mr. Tripp was pointing out, just so the public has an understanding of the funding for your department. We had a very good discussion last week about your sources, and people are gonna wanna know with our budget situation being tight like it is, but yet we're going up with these nice signs, which I think are wonderful, and I think this addition to Skyline is really on target. Explain the source of the funding for these projects that are already basically money in the bank.
Well, the Skyline project will be funded with the 1 cent sales tax the temporary sales tax that is dedicated to, well, our portion of it is dedicated to streets and drainage. And then there were also portions of, obviously, of that tax that went to the aquatic center and central fire station. But that's the funding source, our main funding source for our street improvement projects.
And I want to say thank you, Mr. Jones.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
All right.
Anybody else? All right.
Well, for the alderman that decided not to show up that day, the food was great too.
Yeah.
I do need to, I need to give, that was Patty Whiteside, our receptionist over there that made those that made those sausage balls and the little cheese cracker things. They were delicious, and they disappeared quickly the next day as well. So, thank you.
Thank you. All right, committee reports. Chair Harris, do you have anything to report on finance?
Yes, Mr. Mayor, I do. We met on April the 11th, and we discussed the consideration of a resolution to authorize the mayor and city clerk to enter into an agreement with the Alliance to amend that to assist and share an employee expense of $20,000. And I present that in the form of a motion.
All right, council, you heard the motion. Just for the benefit of anybody that doesn't know yet, Ms. Villeneuve is here. Would you stand up, Ms. Villeneuve? This is the new, potential new employee. She went to Little Rock a couple of weeks ago, I guess, for CDBG training. And then at a breakfast we all attended down there at AEDC, they gave us a couple of names. She's going to start in as soon as you guys, assuming you do approve her, she's going to go to work on cleaning up the paperwork and finishing the $500,000 CDBG grant for Convention Center Drive. So we'll pay out 20 and get 500 back. I hope we can keep making deals like that.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, Mr. Chair. You heard
No problem.
You heard
No
the
problem.
committee's recommendation in motion. Is there any discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries, Madam Chair.
Since we've done this, Jerry will need to appropriate some money, and we'll do that next month. Thank you. Okay. Now, item number 2 was an ordinance to waive the competitive bidding for the grinding of the yard waste. That amount was $31,610. And Mr. Vernon is here, I think. Yeah, yes. If you have any questions, and I present that in the form of a motion.
All right, you heard the motion. Any questions?
Good. Chair, suspend the rules and read title only. It's an ordinance.
It is a
Motion
good
to
idea.
suspend the rules and read one time by title only with a very short explanation.
All right, so we've got a motion to suspend the rules, read one time by title only with a short explanation.
Second.
Second, Mr. Wiley. All in favor of suspending the rules, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay.
An ordinance waiving competitive bidding, employing a grinding company to grind all organic materials at the city yard waste compost facility, authorizing the mayor and city clerk treasurer to sign all necessary documents to employ the grinding company for the purposes this ordinance passed would waive the state statutory bidding requirement for services in excess of $20,000. It is by invoice that this appears to be over $20,000, the amount of $31,610.
Okay.
I got a question.
Mr. Brown. Oh, Mr. Wiley.
What would it cost us to buy this machine and do it ourselves? Or could we save any money on that?
The machine they use is $400,000 to $500,000 piece of equipment,
Or it'd take a while to pay for that?
and there's a lot of maintenance. So they usually break something when they're doing this every year. So
No. So the answer would be no.
In response to your question, I am getting quotes from 3 different manufacturers of wood chippers, variety of sizes. I'm going to personally go and look at what kind of wood volume we're dealing with and come back at a later time with some hard numbers that you can look at. Because I'm with you. If we're going to spend, last year we spent $29,000 something to do this very same thing. This year it's 31, almost $32,000. Next year it's probably more, and the year after that. Well, I'm no mathematician, but I can figure out that some of this stuff we probably can do ourselves, given the right machine at the right price. But I'll bring something to you at a later meeting, some hard numbers that you can look at and make a decision.
Thank you.
Okay. All right, so we're down to the motion to waive competitive bidding. And that's a motion from the committee, so all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right, motion carries.
Sir, we need to have an emergency clause on this.
Need a what?
Emergency clause,
Emergency clause.
so we can get
So we
started.
So we can start now.
So
No
moved.
be.
Okay, so we got motion, Mr. Westcott, second, Mr. Wiley, to enact the emergency clause. Any discussion on that? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries for the emergency clause. Madam Chair?
Item number 3 and number 4. Item number 3 is for the Boys and Girls Club contract in the amount of $12,500. And number 4 is the invoice from the Main Street Russellville contract for $11,250. And I present that in the form of a motion.
All right, council, you heard the motion. It's on 3 and 4. Is there any discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay.
Number 5 is $50 for the trademark of the city's logo.
All right, you heard the motion
Yes.
to renew the trademark for $50. It's 4 years, Trey, or 5?
5 years.
5 years for $50. Is there any discussion on that? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Item 5 is approved, Madam Chair.
Okay, number 6 is, I think, being presented twice tonight. Number 6 is the consideration of discussion pertaining to the painting of the depot. And Betsy's here if there's any questions regarding that. And you have before you the quote that is the lowest second quote after the withdrawal of the first quote. So, and that's in the amount of $16,570.
Okay, and that was recommended in a motion?
Yes, yes, I'm
All
sorry,
right.
yes.
Any discussion on that? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? That item carries.
And tonight and final, tonight we met, and item number 1 was the approval of the invoice from the Alliance. Invoices are attached, $6,332.22. And I present that in the form of a motion.
Okay, you all heard the motion. Any discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? And that item's approved, Madam Chair.
And that's all I have.
Okay, thank
Thank
you. Chairman Sims, does the Personnel Committee have anything?
Yes, sir. We have one item, and it's basically, the best way to explain this is a change in our policy handbook where probably the best way to explain it is where we had good intentions that had unintended consequences. And basically, that's our drug testing policy where basically, if any kind of fender bender accident or whatever happens, the city employee involved has to go get drug tested at a very high cost and all that. That would also include, like, if a deer decided to jump out in front of one of our street department trucks or squad cars or fire engines or whatever, that's an accident, so they have to go. And so that's not what really that was intended for, and so this is just to clean that up, and so I move for its adoption.
All right, council, you heard the motion. This is an ordinance. Do we want to entertain waiving the 3 readings? Do we need to do that?
It's whatever the council wants to do.
Does anybody want to suspend the rules or?
Well, in the case of it's going to automatically start saving us money if something like this does come up. And by the way, the supervisor of that department still has the discretion to request a drug test for whatever reason they might think. So with that said, I would move to suspend the rules, read by title only.
Okay, we've got a motion to suspend by Chairman Sims and a second by Council Member, what's his name, Westcott, yeah. All in favor of the motion to suspend, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, Mr. Smith.
An ordinance amending sections of the City of Russell Personnel Policy Manual and for other purposes. This ordinance, if passed, would amend the current City of Russell Personnel Policy Manual with regard to post-accident drug testing.
All right, is there any discussion? All in favor?
Okay. Oh, did he make the motion to adopt?
Yeah, from the committee. So, no discussion, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? And that carries, Mr. Chair. Anything else?
That's it for this month.
Thank you. That'll bring us down to unfinished business 1. This is the update for the nuisance odor ordinance. Mr. Tripp?
Mayor, I'd like to make a motion to read by title and short explanation for the first of 3 readings.
You done read it once last week. This be, last month, this be second.
Nope. This will be the first of 3 readings.
I thought we read
My
last
motion
month.
is to read this by title and short explanation only for the first of 3 readings, because it was tabled last month.
I'll second that. It was tabled. Okay, so just so everybody understands, you'll not be voting on it tonight. What we're suspending is we don't want to make Mr. Smith have to read this entire thing. And so,
And it will be back
it
before
will
us
be back
next
next
month.
month for consideration again.
For the second.
So we're just suspending the rules on the reading. All in favor of that, say aye. Aye. Opposed? Okay, Mr. Smith.
An ordinance prohibiting nuisance odors occurring in the city of Russellville, Arkansas, prescribing a penalty, establishing definitions, setting up procedure to receive and investigate odor complaints, empowering certain officials to enforce this ordinance, exempting certain actions which fall under the AFPC, repealed ordinance number 2206, and for other purposes. This ordinance, if passed, would replace the current odor ordinance, which is 2206. The difference between some of the differences or additions in this one include addition of new definitions, which involving the devices used to measure, and gives a threshold measuring unit for which is integrated into the ordinance. It also takes it so that instead of 24 hours from complaint, it will be investigated that day. Changes the penalty from a violation to a misdemeanor, and it removes some of the subjective element of the old ordinance based on the number of calls during a time period. It is now objective readings from a scintometer.
All right, so we'll bring that back for the second reading next month. After you read over it, if you got questions, get with Mr. Smith. Right? Item 2, consideration of an ordinance requiring the removal or razing of an unoccupied dilapidated structure. This one is at 808 North El Paso Avenue. This is across the street to the north of, just north of Public Works.
Make a motion to suspend the rules, read by title only with short explanation.
Second. Motion and a motion, Mr. Wiley, second, Mr. Westcott, to suspend the rules. All in favor of that?
Aye.
Say aye. Aye. Opposed? Okay, Mr. Smith.
Second. I think that's, let me get to that page. This is a resolution, does not require
Yeah.
suspension.
I thought it should have been. It's here, it's an
just-
ordinance.
Yeah, that's
Okay.
Kathy's.
All right, motion to adopt.
All right. So this is a resolution,
That's what I thought it should have been.
and we have a motion, Mr. Wiley, second, Mr. Westcott. Is there any discussion?
A little bit.
Okay?
A week or so ago, I had a phone call regarding another piece of property, and the pricing that is the liens that are on these properties. And I was a little shocked myself to know that sometimes it costs the city $20,000 and $30,000 to to tear down these pieces of property. I mean, I'm for doing it, but at the same time, we do incur a serious amount of, a tie-up of a lot of money for an indefinite period of time. It can be there, my understanding is, for years. We don't charge any type of, probably can't, but, you know, penalties or interest on the amounts of money or anything like that. But I just wanted to make us aware of this. I don't know if there's anything that we could improve upon. They certainly need to be torn down. They're abandoned. And just wanted to say that.
You want to do an update on your research you're working on?
I can, I mean, if you want to. There's this method, this method doesn't change. It's after a building's torn down that you can file a lien, which would then have to be foreclosed on in circuit court, which is what we've done in the past. There's also an alternative method whereby the city council would have to hold a hearing after the structure was torn down and certify at the public hearing the amount of money that the expenses it incurred. That, if it was not challenged by the owner or responsible party, could be filed, I believe it could be filed on the owner or responsible party's county property tax, which could then be collected by the assessor, and it would hopefully have more of a higher return than the potential of a lien, in which it sits out there for up to 10 years hoping for a sale or a foreclosure action. There's a few things, there's different procedures, but one of the procedures would be that the hearing would have to be done at a city council meeting. There's no other way to get around that in the state law, and you have to provide notice to the responsible party. Again, you're going to get about the same amount of money, but at the same time, if it's on a tax collector's tax roll, then it could be paid that way versus going to court. There's still a lot of things trying to work out on it, but it's an alternative. But again, the alternative also has things the city would have to do different from filing a lien.
So what would you recommend?
Well,
Or are we doing it the best we can?
well,
I was just shocked at some of the dollar amounts.
well, it adds up, and once you have what the cost is, and we try and go with the lowest responsible bidder, and then we try and tack on any of the city's out-of-pocket expenses. It's not cheap, but at the same time, it's what this council wants to do on the quality of the community. If we want to let them stand because it's too expensive, or remove them and try and recoup the cost as best the city can. And I try and add all the costs so that the city gets at least to break even on the cost that it incurred. The thing about it is, sometimes these lands are so encumbered by other things such as tax liens, which take priority, or other liens for mortgages. There's sometimes that some of the properties you will never get back what's put into it, and it's just one of those that you're trying to just clean up the neighborhood because of the dilapidation of the structure involved, and how it's a benefit to the neighborhood to remove a house that way for a variety of reasons, such as crime, economic value and stuff.
What's the time frame on that there?
The time frame is, you talking about the alternative method?
Yeah.
Alternative method, if I remember correctly, is that you have to provide notice within 60 days of removal that you're going to have a public hearing. You have to then show that you've provided notice to the owner responsible party. You have to run advertising the newspaper of the public hearing for it. Again, that's additional costs that you can tack on at the end. You have the public hearing. The person that's here has a right to appeal to circuit court within 45 days. If they do not, then you have 60 days from the certification hearing held by City Council to have that lien placed on the tax rolls.
So we're looking at 3 or 4 months or 5 months.
That's correct. And then.
And I only got 3 months to tear that one down. I tore it down.
But all this is done after it's torn down.
That's correct. Yeah, you don't, until we get the torn down at a final cost.
Why can't they just take the roof off and then burn the rest of it?
Yeah, you could possibly run afoul of the Clean Air Act if there's asbestos in there, other hazardous materials. That's why a lot of the times these buildings don't qualify because of that.
I'm through, Mayor. I was just going to make
Any
a...
other discussion?
No, I...
All right, so,
Yeah,
Number
plenty.
3 is the same
yeah,
thing.
this is by resolution, and this is the one at 808 El Paso. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, the motion carries. They have 7 days to get with Public Works and work out a plan to rehab this property or tear it down. Item 3, as Mr. Brown said, is basically the same deal. It is a resolution. This is located at 1411 West C Street. So we got a motion, is that Mr. Brown or Mr. Wiley?
Well,
Mr. Wiley, do we have a second, Mr. Westcott? Is there any discussion on this one? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Item 5 is an ordinance amending the Russellville zoning code. This is several items that were recommended by our planner, James Walden, considered by the Planning Commission, and they've recommended unanimously that we adopt all of these.
Does 4 and 5 go together?
Oh, I'm sorry, I did look over 4. I guess I'm in a hurry. Let's go back to number 4. It's a resolution setting a public hearing to vacate part of a right-of-way. And this was recommended unanimously by Planning Commission.
Motion.
Second.
We have to open the public hearing.
Okay. So we'll hold that and we'll open it for a public hearing. Does anybody want to speak on vacating the right-of-way? Nope. We'll declare the hearing closed. So now we can vote on vacating the lots, right?
Yes.
The motion and the second still stand after all that discussion from the public. Any other discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Now we're on number 5. This is an ordinance. Rezoning is for zoning, updates to our zoning code, basically.
Make a motion, suspend the rules, read by title only, short explanation.
Okay. Motion to suspend the rules, read one time.
One time.
Second. Yes.
Clarification, so for voting for
Okay.
passage tonight?
Yeah.
Or one
Yes.
of 3?
The motion is to suspend the rules and read one time.
They've already got it, they've already perked it out. They've already, look at all the stuff they did to it.
Yeah. All right, so right now we're voting on the motion to suspend. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
And opposed?
Aye.
Okay, call the roll.
Mr. Wiley?
Yes.
Mr. Westcott?
Yes.
Mr. Brown?
Yes.
Miss Freddie Harris?
Yes.
Mr. Tripp?
No.
Mr. Sims?
No.
So that's 4 yeses. Let's see, we're changing area requirements, table of uses.
How many does
Okay,
it
so-
take for passage?
It takes 5 to suspend the rules, doesn't it?
It takes 6 to
6 to suspend the rules.
There we
Okay,
go.
so the motion to suspend fails.
So it can be read one time.
All right, I'll
It-
make a different
let's-
motion. Make a motion, we suspend the rules and read the title only for the first reading.
Okay. Sound better? All right, motion, Mr. Wiley, second, Mr. Westcott. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right, much better.
In ordinance amending the zoning code for the city of Russellville, Arkansas, ordinance number 1966, and for other purposes, this ordinance, if passed, would amend the zoning code at the following articles: Article 12, Article 13, and Article 2, Section 2.9 respectively. And the attachments for those are attached with this ordinance.
All right, so there's reading 1. We'll come back next month. Does anybody have any specific questions that you might have for Mr. Smith on that? All right, then, we're on item 6. Mr. Wiley,
No,
you
it's-
decided you want to table?
That was tabled. What Kurt's gonna do, he's gonna put signs up at the, as you come in the chamber, just ask everybody to turn their cell phones off, so I think that'll take care of that problem.
Okay.
There's gonna be two of them.
Be two of them, one here and one downstairs.
So you want to just go ahead and pull that off and let us
Yes.
do that and see how it goes?
Yes.
Very well, then 6 is gone. Item 7, discussion concerning the city's policy and enforcement of overgrown lots. Mr. Tripp.
Yes, sir. Mayor, just as we prepare to enter that season, just some clarification, and I don't know if this is more for Mr. Smith or you or Mr. Holstein, or I'll, doesn't make any difference who answers it. I just want, some clarification and to air it just for the public's knowledge. What is our policy? What constitutes an overgrown lot?
Seems like we go through this every year.
My
don't we?
understanding is that an overgrown lot that is anything over 12 inches for the grass height, something that a property or a lot that has been developed and has fallen into a state of decay or a lack of care, and so that grass height gets back to 12 inches or higher.
Develop meaning cleared?
Right, right. Usually if it's uncleared, undeveloped, then it has, to a certain extent, it's allowed to have that natural state. But once it's been developed, been basically platted, brought into the city, been developed at some point in time, then there is a duty attached with the ordinance, in effect, that the owner or responsible party has to maintain it to below 12 inches in height. And depending on the size, either the whole lot is below that, or there is a perimeter if it's a larger size property, because the city recognized for 20, 30 acre lots possibly, that keeping it all below that is hard to do, so that they have a perimeter for large size lots.
So what is the process if someone makes a complaint or if the city identifies one? What is the process?
If the city, or if there is a complaint, if a complainant calls, they're supposed to call code enforcement. Code enforcement's supposed to check it out. They're supposed to then find the owner or responsible party, advise them that they are in violation. They're given a notice of violation. They're given a time period to clear up the lot. If that is not done, then they are supposed to be given a citation where they will appear in district court. At that point, if they do go to a trial setting, then again, for these type compliances, for these type of health and safety type violations, we don't look to just fine them. We look towards the punishment of a fine to have them clean up the lot, and if that's cleaned up, then we usually dispose of the case without any type of fine, since they've done what the original intent was of the city, which was to clean up the lot.
So is for each complaint, once it's identified, then that would in theory be a case that the city will open or code enforcement will initiate?
I don't want to speak too much to code enforcement, but that's my understanding is they get a complaint, it's on a lot usually, it's investigated by them, so they have their own type open case or file.
At what point will the city go in and do the mowing itself to get it cleared, to get it cleaned up or cleared? Much similar, much like what we were talking about, the raising of the lots or the structures.
Only in the cases where when the city cannot find an owner, and they do occasionally happen, it's somebody dies and we cannot find the next of kin, where we just run into a dead end where there's nobody claiming any ownership of the lot. And at that point, a decision is made to have the lot mowed, and then a cleanup lien is placed on it at that time.
At the point that it's established that it's a problem or a dead end, is that something code enforcement takes from that point, or does that go to you, or does that go to Public Works? Where does that go once they determine that it's a dead end or a problem?
My understanding is code enforcement will usually ask us if we can find anybody on the lot, but other than that, there's a decision that they have to make that they cannot find anybody, and then decisions, I believe they talk to Public Works, and then we look at doing it. The departments look at contracting out a service to mow the lot, and we get the invoice, because at that point I need the invoice to draw up a cleanup lien.
Okay. Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Got one right down the street here.
Do what?
We got one right down the street here.
Any other discussion?
Are we ready to adjourn?
Have a motion to adjourn.
Hey, Chief,